All right, so this week I have been talking about poetic presence, aesthetic presence, not just as metaphor, but as an actual embodied, outside of time interaction. So on Monday, I talked about Walt Whitman and how in his poem Crossing Brooklyn Ferry, yes, he uses language that kind of conjures up his experience, our experience, and the poetic device of communication between the two. Uh, but what I was saying then was that you actually get the sense that Whitman is kind of an emergent force, an emergent presence from the poem that we can interact with. Um, because his poem deconstructs our sense of reified self. Right? That's the mechanics of it. But the experience of it is that from the poem, not just the experience of the poem, not just the insights of the poem, but actually the character of the poet comes out. Then yesterday I talked about Ada, Nabokov's novel about time and memoir and narrative, and how the different layers of that novel lead you into this experience, right? So what I'm particularly focused on right now is trying to understand how we can, for sure, there's metaphor, the metaphor of the poet voice, the metaphor of the shared experience, but that these artifacts are embedded in the imagination and act as like gravitational beacons, right? They're like the McKenna hyperspatial object at the end of time. So the end of time is not the cessation of time or the cessation of things. Eternity is not forever. It's more like, I think, a singularity. Like that, my intuition on this is that timelessness, the timelessness of timelessness is a sensation of all things in simultaneous, rather than the idea that a clock just runs forever. The difference between eternity and sempiternity. So today, I'm going to bring out the Bible and read from the high priestly prayer, which is in the Gospel of John. Jesus prays at the end of the Last Supper. And in that prayer, verse 20, hang on, here it is. I do not ask for these only are his disciples present in the room with him, but also for those who will believe in me through their word, that they may all be one, just as you, Father, are in me and I in you, that they also may be in us, so that the world may believe that you have sent me. The glory that you have given me I have given to them, that they may be one, even as we are one, I in them and you in me, that they may become perfectly one, so that the world may know that you sent me and loved them even as you loved me. Those who will believe in me through the word, that's us. That isn't just a narrative device, right? We are present in that verse. And so we are present in the prayer, and we are present in the wisdom that's being shared there. And my theology isn't great, but the unification of experience. Let's start with that, right? The unification of understanding that Jesus has spoken to the disciples. Jesus and the disciples are one. Jesus and God are one, and then we are part of that outside of time relationship. And again, the words are on the page, and they present an idea that I just summarized to you. But in this case, I want to pull in the idea of the logos, right? The word, which makes sense. That's how John begins the gospel. But the idea of the logos, the word, the organization of the cosmos in the logos is relational. You speak to the logos, and the logos speaks back. That's the framework for this prayer. It is an entryway into a communication outside of time that is experienced now. Now, like with the poem and with Ada, we enter into that, and then we need a bit of help. We need some framework. The poem provides some framework, the novel provides some framework, and the rest of the scripture provides some framework, because you sort of entered into this very different sense of self, very different sense of interaction, very different sense of the precipitant nature of consciousness. And so here in John, you have Jesus and the words that Jesus is speaking to help just give a little bit of an assist when we first experience this, how to orient ourselves. That, to me, is the objective of poetry, art. When I say poetry, I mean aesthetics. And when I say aesthetics, I mean liturgy. And when I say liturgy, I mean prayer. And when I say prayer, I mean relational. And when I say relational, I mean precipitant consciousness. And when I say that, I mean, I don't know what I mean. If I knew what I meant, I'd probably stop making these videos. But take this, the prayer in this chapter as why is it written there? Why is it included? Well, because it's a teaching. Okay, well, teaching, the same as poetry, is only as valid as the experience that it creates. And the experience that we are introduced to here is sort of this wonderful set of statements about our presence with God, with the Logos, and our immediacy in our interaction with it. I would go so far as to say that the aesthetic object, again, whether that's a poem or a piece of music or an essay or a YouTube video, an aesthetic object, something that is constructed within the human stream of imagination, that object is measurably good or bad in its effectiveness in how it compels our interaction with that understanding of self and the concomitant recognition of the relational opportunity with the mystery of the cosmos, with the precipitant consciousness. That's the measure that I want to apply to my work, right? And I struggle with that. I don't have great theology, I don't have great craft, I don't have great aesthetics, but I have urgency. Maybe for today, a few minutes shorter than usual today, let's leave it there. These objects, right? This biblical verse, Ada, Whitman. Tomorrow I'm going to talk about Philip K. Dick, Valis. Uh, these are objects that, for me, powerfully demonstrate that immediacy. And what I would ask is for you to examine your internal canon, right? The works, whatever they are, that you hold deeply within you, right? It can be anything. But ask what's really happening as you hold that idea of that piece, that art within you. And really scrutinize the difference between metaphor and experience. Because I think we shortchange ourselves when we examine our experience as aesthetics or philosophy and forget about the teachable moment of experience. Yep. All right. Well, with that, keep your wits about you, and I'll be here tomorrow.